Hey guys, this is Timmy, Best Buds 76 on behalf of the Nug. Welcome to Napomo. This is my buddy John in the background. We're up here at the River Rock Farm, a cactus farm, and we're trimming some cactus for a distillery. They make alcohol, and maybe later on we'll tell you a little bit more about them. But just right now, we're just going to give you an oversight of what we're doing, having some fun. It's early in the morning. It's a little hot, man. But anyways, I hope you have some fun. Thanks a lot. Love you, brother. Come check it out. First we cut them. Try to cut them into, the certain pads. Try to cut them individually in their pads. John, you want to tell them a little bit more about like how we do things here?
So when we trim the bottom off and we leave a little stub, it allows the new pads to grow from those for the next season. So if this particular plant is watered pretty well through the year, like watering every 2 months is good enough, it will put out 2 flushes of growth like this and can be harvested twice a year, maybe 500 pounds coming off of one really large plant.
Check that out. Look at the texture inside there, huh? It's kind of like a melon. They produce a fruit also, on the outside. We might get to a few pads here. As a matter of fact, I'm going to go ahead and pull off one of these fruits here.
A person can get this and squeeze it, and if you got enough strength, you can actually get juice from it. But right now it's been so dry and hot that it doesn't want to squeeze out all that juice.
And these are the fruits right here that they produce. John, what's the name of the fruit that this cactus fruit?
Tunas.
Tunas.
Otherwise known as prickly pear.
Prickly pears. So I just been out here in Napomo. This is what Timmy's been doing. Been working with my buddy John. He's my only friend out here. I got people out work, but I don't very much talk with them too much. This is what I do on my days off. We come out here and trim, and John thinks it's work. I think it's kind of a hobby. Smoke my bud.
Now these particular pads are going to a distillery. It's called Dryland Distillers. They're in Longmont, Colorado. And they process this in some way with some other dry land, desert type plants, and they make a kind of a whiskey from it, but it's not really whiskey. It's called Cactus Spirits, and it won some pretty big awards in London a couple years ago. So they're getting back to production now. This is our first harvest and shipment to them since March.
What's the name of the distillery? Give them a shout
Dryland
out.
Distillers.
What's it called, John?
Dryland Distillers, Longmont, Colorado.
Longmont, Colorado.
And they can be found online at drylanddistillers.com. Now, once in a while, you get a big pad reaching out like this, so you just need to get it out of the way. And then it gets tossed into the compost pile.
The compost pile is all on the side of the driveway right here. It breaks down. John turns it into compost for the dirt. It builds nitrates. He's been teaching me a lot of stuff. It ends up getting eaten up and turned into, fertilizer that builds nutrients for all kinds of plants. Pretty cool. These are pretty heavy ones right here.
Yep.
They remind me of tuna fish, catching tuna. Woo! What do you think about cut? You want me to keep this one here? It's a pretty good one to keep.
Nah, we'll just, yeah. A little further out. Yeah.
Right here?
There, yeah. That way you'll have some pads on it.
You think they'll take that one?
No.
No? So you're gonna take something like this. This is kind of like the branch. It builds up these calluses right here on the ends towards the ground. What is it called when it grows these calluses like this on it, John?
That's called callus.
It's called callus.
Uh-huh.
Oh, that's it. It's called callus. There's no scientific name for it?
Nope, nope.
Oh, all right.
And so you can see how this pad at one time had been torn off or cut off, and then the new branch grows up.
Mm-hmm.
Now, these are not really leaves at all, even though they seem like it. They're green, they do the photosynthesis thing, but they're actually branches. And so the plant, long time ago, was a regular plant with branches, with leaves and all that. And then it moved into a drier environment. It had to adapt to the dryness. So leaves lose a lot of moisture on hot days. It was 120 degrees yesterday, and yet they're still pretty good. And this plant has not been irrigated for years. I just let the rain do it on this plant. So the photosynthesis shifted to the branches, and they lost the leaves. The spines on the cactus are the petiole, the little spine of the leaf that was there in prehistoric days. And on this particular plant, it's been bred out by a Navajo family who bred this particular plant about 300 years ago.
Yeah, they do it with machetes traditionally, correct?
Machetes, but really what's good is something that has some sort of serration on it. So if you're using a machete, what's helpful is to take a really rough file and sharpen it with that rough file. That way it's got a jagged edge on it, still sharp and everything like that. Where's that saw at?
Right here?
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm using it.
I'm just going to grab one right here.
Yep. It's kind of like what we've been doing lately is what I call, in my head, it's kind of giving it a butch top. Your mom gave you a butch top? You remember that when you were younger at all? Your mom would just like kind of like shave a flat top. No, that's what it was called, a flat top.
We went to the Air Force for our haircuts.
Oh, so they gave you, you know.
Yeah, we got Air Force haircuts.
Of course. So that's kind of like what you're doing to the cactus. You know, you're giving it its services haircut. What do you think about this one? Leave this one, huh?
Yeah, you could cut it more if you want, but it's okay.
I'm just thinking we were actually under what we thought we were. I thought we were going to be over 1,000 when we, you know what I mean? When we counted.
Yeah, you always hope you had more than you did. So part of the thing with something like this is to go through the plant and prune it.
It's actually healthy for it, correct?
Healthy. It opens it up, it lets the light and the air in so that there will be less rot. Keeps it from being unmanageable. It gives space for new pads to be able to grow in.
Ooh, that was nice. Look at that one I pulled out of there. Now I can cut multiple ones off this one. That one. We'll go ahead and cut this one off. This one. This one's got fruit on it.
I'm wondering if we should call them and see if they want to go with 1,000 pounds. I'm thinking this plant would grow back so much thicker after one rain.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, we're getting in the thinner pads, especially on the backside.
Yeah.
We could stop here. We got over 1,000. We could make it that way, and I think
Are we cutting too much off?
what I want to do is let them have more water to them.
Okay.
And they'll be thicker and they'll be juicier for the people that need them. They're looking to make the juice out of them.
Right.
Right now with the heat, they're just very, very dry.
Very thin. Huh?
Yeah, and the weight's low too.
Yeah.
And if we water at 8 pounds a gallon, if this plant takes up 1,000 gallons in the course of time, that might add, in the case of what we're taking off of it, it might add 300, 400, or 500 pounds. Because this plant will, as soon as it rains, these roots have been under here for 6 or 8 months without a single speck of rain. And they've dried up and desiccated. It's like the valve has been turned off to the hose. And now they've shrunk up inside the channels in the soil here. That gives a little more insulation so that they have less soil contact, soil trying to pull out from the roots. And then as soon as the rain comes and the roots sense that there's moisture there, they'll fill up again and they'll start taking that water up into the plant. And this plant will absorb so much water.
So you'll drag a hose out here?
I do have a hose right here, but I don't want to bother. It's going to rain.
Yo, it is?
Soon. Yeah, 2 weeks.
2 weeks, you think it's going to rain? Is that what it's calling for?
Yep, that's what I'm calling for.
All right. Oh, you know. Huh? 2 weeks.
The tarantulas said it. We have tarantulas running around now. So anytime the tarantulas are running around, we can expect rain in about 2 weeks.
So I was thinking about that now. I was thinking about, why do you see them like that? Are they nervous? One thing I was thinking is, are they nervous that their little holes, their barrels are going to fill up with water?
Nope. What happens is tarantulas we see walking around are the males. So the male tarantulas are looking for a sweet girl who's already built her nest. And she's lined the inside of it up with all of her silk and everything, so it's a nice cozy little tunnel. And she'll be waiting around the door of it. The male will come along looking for her. They have their little courtship ritual. She might kill him and eat him, which gives her more nutrients for the babies. She lays the eggs in there, and the reason for doing it right before the rain, they have to have a certain humidity level on the eggs, and so they like a little moisture in there, and it helps everything better for the babies. So that's the thing. And every time I see tarantulas, we always have rain within 10 to 20 days.
Yeah, that's cool. That's neat. Neat to know. Plus, you're right by the beach too. We're right over the valley that's right over here is where the beach is. Right, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that gives us a little bit of moderating influence. Usually it only gets about 85, 90 degrees here in the summertime, which is pretty good for the plants and people even too. But this last couple of days have been pretty exceptional.
Yeah, real hot, man. I woke up this morning at 4 a.m. this morning. It was so hot, I got up and was just, I drank some coffee, and it was a little uncomfortable drinking, outside, drinking hot coffee while it was so hot, And it seemed like it was hotter earlier in the morning. Now we're getting a breeze, And anyways,
it's one of those things. And the thing with the cactus is most of it is very much natural. We're organically certified. I don't try to do a huge amount of irrigation on this particular type of cactus. It gets by with just the regular rain in the winter. If I want to push production, I can give it a little water, and it will yield double with very little water additional added to it.
Okay.
So, but we weren't. This order came up kind of quick. They unlocked at their place and said we'd like it, and I said, well, okay. And I thought we had a lot more growing, a lot heavier than what we did.
Well, is there anywhere else that we can pick a few from right now?
No, I don't. I don't think we're gonna get full another 1,000 pounds. Everything we're gonna be pulling is gonna be thin.
Okay.
And I
How
want
about
them to be juicy.
on the patch that's right here, the patch that we have growing right here, real tall?
We could go and get those, but then we'd be way over that 1,000 pounds,
Oh.
And we can only ship. The total box weight can only be 1,300.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so we can't overpack it to like 1,500. And,
Oh, I got
you. And then it'd be wasteful.
If you
to
had
have
the 2,000 pounds though,
yeah,
then you would what? Get 2 boxes, 2 main crate boxes.
Two is what we were looking for.
Yeah.
1,000 pounds a piece, and they'd wind up weighing about 1,200 pounds total.
Well, now you got to talk them into buying what, 1,000.
Just 1,000 instead of 2,000.
Will they be okay?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this gives them actually 2 or 3 runs.
Yeah.
And it's going to increase the shipping cost per pound, I suppose. I'll send them a little message and see how it works out for them economically. Everything is so topsy-turvy with everything the way it's been going on now. And, we just decided when they wanted to order, I figured, well, it's time to start picking. But the plants haven't been worked the same because they get used to a certain harvesting.
Mm-hmm.
And then you do an irrigation and everything like that. But since we weren't doing the harvesting, I haven't been giving them the same irrigation.
Right, they're not as plump as what they used to be when you were constantly harvesting.
Exactly.
Them. Right.
Yeah. If
because they're surviving just on nature now for water instead of being irrigated.
Exactly. Yeah. This is 2 years of no irrigation on this particular plant. It's one that I harvest from this one maybe once a year, and it because it's all natural regrowth. And Timmy and I harvested this one. It must have been about a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is 1 year's regrowth with absolutely no fertilizer added, absolutely no irrigation water. All it got was the 25 inches or so, whatever we got last year of
the yearly total
of rainfall. And so as soon as the rain happens, what will happen is within days those roots will revitalize. They'll be sucking up water, and 5 days after rain, the soil here will be seemingly bone dry again. But that water will be pulled up into the plant.
So what would you say the timeline would be from watering them to them drinking the water and storing it in the pads? How long do you think till that'll happen?
3 weeks.
3 weeks?
Yeah.
For the remaining pads?
Yeah.
And then how about the new growth from what we've cut off?
Okay, where we've cut off, say if we cut off here, you got this stub, we have these areolas here. Each of those is where the spine of the plant is. You could also call it where the prehistoric leaf was in the old days. And so each of those is a potential growth area for a new pad. And another interesting thing about these plants is besides just moving the chlorophyll production to the branches and getting rid of their leaves to reduce transpiration, they also have a waxy coating over these branches, which helps reduce transpiration further. Then they have something called the CAM mechanism, C-A-M, crassula acid mechanism, which is a specialized set of cells inside the plant itself, right near the chlorophyll layer. What happens is these particular cells can absorb in the carbon dioxide that the plant will take in at night. So they'll open the stomata, or stomata, I like stomata, it sounds better. And so they open the stomata at nighttime and bring in
to absorb these. And it's kind of like a siphon kind of effect, or it's an absorption.
Picture it like a window.
Like a window, so it's just letting it flow
that's
through.
The best analogy. So the plant has these windows here. Most plants have got them open all the time. And on a hot day, they're losing tons of water. And
Through evaporation, right? Yeah.
Through
Natural
transpiration.
transpiration.
So the cactus shuts those windows off in the daytime. But then how does it do photosynthesis if it can't bring in carbon dioxide? Well, it's brought in carbon dioxide overnight and packed it into the cells, got rid of all the waste oxygen at the same time. Boom, it's out of there.
Kind of the way solar panels work. They absorb and, the way they absorb, and store, the way they absorb and store.
Okay, well, now in this case, what they've done is the fuel for the process is the carbon dioxide.
Right.
So they've stored the fuel. Now the sun comes, the photons hit on all this. You got this green layer with all this, green goo that does all the solar panel stuff. And it's combining the photons and the carbon dioxide and all this other element stuff that you can watch a diagram or read a diagram and understand it fully, and then 10 minutes later it's like, well, I don't know, it's pretty complex. Because it really is. I mean, it's a huge complex thing where there's like 3 stages of all of this electrolysis stuff, of switching atoms around and all this stuff that creates all of this energy that feeds the plant. And then part of the waste is the oxygen, but it's doing this in the daytime, so it has to store the oxygen. So it stores the oxygen in those specialized cells. Then at nighttime, the stomata open up, gets rid of the oxygen, brings in new carbon dioxide, and that's a big carbon cycle. But so that's one of the ways. I mean, this plant has so many different ways that it conserves water. You got stomata closing, you got the waxy glaucous coating.
How about the way the pads grow, as in, directional towards the sun,
Okay, if you'll notice, most of these pads are kind of facing, their thin edge is kind of facing kind of southish. And that's dependent because of this particular orientation with hills on both sides and the general south that way. What's happening is when the hot part of the day comes, these pads are mainly knife edge to the sun, so the sun's passing by them, and that way they're not getting as much of the direct solar heat. Now in the morning, the sun will come here and touch all of this big wide pad and do all sorts of photosynthesis. Midday, it's passing it by and all the stomata are closed. In the evening, it'll be over here and touching this big, wide, broad pad and doing all sorts of photosynthesis again. Also, the ones that have spines, the spines often will be kind of pointing down. So if you've got one of those days where the dew
is that
point
due? I don't mean to interrupt, John, but is that due to the spines? Is that due because of the flex of the skin on the cactus, like
no,
the
that's,
pores, kind of the way
no,
hairs move?
It's all different with each plant, but in the case of a lot of them, they're actually pointing down because the dew will roll down to the tips of those spines and drop off onto the soil.
Oh, okay.
So that way the plant's producing its own moisture from the air. And also another adaptation they have is, for most cactus, especially Zopuntias here, the roots are very, very close to the surface of the soil. You'd think they'd go down like 60 or 100 feet, but they don't. They're like spokes of a wheel coming out from a central hub, which is this here. When you got a whole plantation of them, they're all woven together like a giant mat. And this just 3-4 inches below the soil, even a couple. And every time it rains, that little bit of rain, once it gets through a couple inches of soil, it's in that root zone of fibrous interwoven roots, a couple inches deep and thick. They're sucking up all that water. It's not getting past them unless you're getting a huge amount of water for a long time.
Right.
And the plant will keep sucking up water, and it'll just puff these pads out and store all the water it can. That's why just a little bit of rain will double the harvest off this one plant.
Okay. All right.
And so there's huge amounts of ways that these plants have adapted. Now, This plant is a little like corn in that the wild corn is not anything like the corn we're used to. This plant isn't really that much like the ones that are in the wild. This was bred by people hundreds of years ago who selectively took the pads that were the least spiny. And these ones also have a very low spine on the fruit, which is especially nice for the fruit because most fruits are very, very spiny. And the fruit's still pretty tasty. But yet, if this were in the wild, the deer would be eating it. You see, because it's that tender with no spines. It doesn't have the natural protection cactus has.
And those are all in different kinds of classes, correct? As in the way the pads they grow. You know, younger ones are class A's, the new class B's,
well, that's a
and C's.
designation I made up, and for the gourmet cactus up the
Yeah.
hill, which is totally different from this.
Right.
And this is
Different kind of
can
cactus.
be eaten fresh. In fact, it's locally it's the type of cactus that's eaten fresh quite a bit, similar to this. But it's not my favorite. I like the Nopalea grande.
So you still can eat this stuff when it's
yeah.
young.
Yeah, it has to be the right size. I saw a young pad earlier, and let me see if I can grab one real quick. And because you don't want to get these older ones, they're kind of tough.
Let's take a follow, guys. I'm gonna take a follow over there towards them.